Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Kelly Beard, Content Specialist for Maryland Realtors, and I want to welcome you all to the discussion and review of the SHIBA Report and Fair Housing. Today, we have our moderator and Director of Legal Affairs, Kathleen D'Artes, along with our guest speakers, 2024 National Association of Real Estate Brokers, NAREB, President Dr. Courtney Johnson Rose, Robin Abney Spivey, and Colette Massengale. Together, they will dive into the barriers of Black home ownership as well as NAREB's initiatives. This webinar will be recorded and sent out to all attendees after the conclusion of the webinar. We do encourage your questions and we look forward to answering them. Please post all your questions in the Q&A box below at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And with that, I will turn it over to Kathleen.
Great. Thank you, Kelly. And thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. I am delighted to be the moderator for this distinguished panel, very distinguished panel. We are going to be discussing quite a few things today. We are going to be discussing an organization known as NAREB, which some of you may be familiar with, some of you may not. I'm going to give just a brief overview, and then our Dr. Courtney Johnson Rose is the current president of NAREB. She'll go into more detail, of course. But NAREB is was founded in Tampa, Florida in 1947 as an equal opportunity and civil rights advocacy organization for African-American real estate professionals who at that time were not allowed to join the National Association of Realtors. So real estate professionals, consumers, communities in the United States. Its purpose remains the same today. Today, they're focused more on economic opportunity rather than civil rights strictly. Principally, most of the members are African-American, but the organization embraces all qualified real estate professionals who are committed to achieving its vision of democracy in housing. That is from the SHIBA report, which we're going to be discussing in some detail. That is a state of housing in Black America, and Dr. Courtney Johnson will be going into that. Courtney Johnson Rose will be going into that. I am going to introduce Dr. Courtney Johnson Rose, who is she has a very impressive biography, let me tell you. She is the current president of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, which is the largest network of Black real estate professionals. It's one of the oldest minority trade associations in the country. There are over 100 chapters nationwide. Courtney began her career, she's done project management with a leading consulting company. She became a broker in 2002, joined her family's real estate firm, GEJ Development. She's a real estate developer, a broker specializing in development services, owner representation, master planning, residential and commercial brokerage services. She's been the CEO of that entity, and they have contracts, huge commercial contracts with health hospitals, Texas Southern University, City of Houston, all kinds of large projects. Courtney's right on top of that. She's also part of the community collective, for Houston, which recently acquired a power center. This is a great project too. 110,000 square foot multi-purpose facility, includes a small business incubator, an event center, urban farm, a private school, a lot of great development projects they're working on. Courtney is also the immediate past chair of the Texas Association of African American Chambers, a statewide network of over 25 Black chambers of commerce. And Courtney actually has just finished a meeting with the Texas State Affordable Housing Corporation. She just concluded a meeting there before joining us. That's another thing she's doing. She's been a member of NAREB for over 20 years, has been recognized as Realtist of the Year by the local board, the state association, the region, and the national association. And also, let me just go your academic background, which again that's a lot of accomplishments there as well. Courtney holds her bachelor's in economics, master's in community development, and a doctorate in organizational leadership, certified project manager, also has a CCIM designation, and is a college professor. Since 2008, she's a faculty member and adjunct professor at Prairie View A&M, teaching land development and real estate courses. So that is a very impressive resume. I believe I forgot to mention she's also been on HGTV. So very broad, a lot of success, a lot of accomplishments, a lot of knowledge that is going to be shared with us today. I'll go ahead and introduce all of the panelists first, and then Courtney will let you start your presentation. We also have Ms. Robin Abney Spivey, who is our president of the Maryland chapter, one of the Maryland chapters, the Real Estate Brokers of Baltimore. Robin is an account executive with residential title and commercial settlement services. She graduated with her bachelor's in Africana Studies. And Robin also has a wide variety of experience in real estate. Robin has managed a portfolio with 1,500 units of luxury high-rise condominium units, done settlements, refinances, everything settlement and title related. Robin's passion is service, and anyone who knows Robin knows this is true, educating consumers about the importance of homeownership and creating wealth with real estate. Robin is currently serving her 4th year as president of the Real Estate Brokers of Baltimore. She is a GBBR Preferred Partner and recipient of the Alan C. Grubb Preferred Partner of the Year Award with the Howard County Association. She's graduate of Maryland Realtors Leadership Academy and is currently serving as vice chair of our DEI advisory group. And last but not least, Colette Massengale, who I don't even know how to start. We're talking about Colette. Colette is currently, she's with the National Association of Realtors now. She is a senior policy representative in their Fair Housing Policy Department. She joined them in September 2022. Prior to joining NAR, Colette worked at Maryland Realtors. She was a director of professional development and member engagement, did a phenomenal job there. Of course, she was the staff executive for the DEI advisory group, the Realtors GRI advisory group, the Leadership Academy advisory group, Professional Standards Committee, the Grievance Committee. She worked 10 years in the Legal Affairs Department where she taught classes and handled the legal hotline. Trained on NAR Code of Ethics and taught, of course, a variety of continuing education courses. And Colette is a native Washingtonian, went to Oberlin College and got her JD from Washington College of Law at American University. So a very highly distinguished and experienced panel we have today. I was going to just pass the baton to you, Dr. Johnson Rose, and see if you could start out. Maybe our focus is primarily the State of Housing in Black America report, so we're going to start with that.
Yes.
And let me see, I can share my screen, I believe. You need me to do that?
Yes, ma'am. And thank you so much for the warm introduction.
Thank you.
And I just want to say thank you to the Maryland Realtors for inviting NAREB to be a part of today's presentation. And you all have assembled the dream team. So I am so pleased and honored to share the stage today with Robin and with Colette. And we look forward to a very impactful conversation. So on behalf of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, thank you again. We have a lot of good information to share, and I look forward to the discussion. So NAREB, and Kathleen, you did a wonderful job giving a wonderful overview of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, produces a report every year called the State of Housing in Black America report. Now we're in real estate, so in real estate we have a lot of acronyms. So the acronym for State of Housing in Black America is SHIBA. So you will hear us refer to it as State of Housing, SHIBA. So just know that that is an acronym that we will use. If we move to the next slide, I do want to mention and just highlight the tremendous history of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. Again, the premier network of Black real estate professionals. And our focus is democracy in housing. When we were founded in 1947, as Kathleen mentioned, due to discrimination at that time, we were not able to become realtors within the African American community. So our organization founded the Real TIS. And the Real TIS have been focused on democracy in housing and opening up opportunities for African Americans to purchase real estate in this country. Next slide, please. I always like to mention that our network of real estate professionals includes all genres of real estate. We also have 10 affiliate organizations that are a part of NAREB, the National Society of Real Estate Appraisers, the Property Managers Institute, United Developers Council, Commercial Real Estate. So just know that NAREB includes all real estate professionals with the focus, again, on equity and increasing economic opportunities for Black real estate professionals throughout the full gamut of the real estate industry. Next slide, please. So SHIBA, And you'll, by the end of this, you'll be saying SHIBA, SHIBA, SHIBA. SHIBA is an extraordinary collection of data that NAREB has been able to assemble. I do want to highlight 2023 was the 10th-year anniversary of the State of Housing in Black America report. We're very proud of that at NAREB because what we have done is institutionalized this data and made ourselves the voice of Black real estate and the source of the most accurate, the most current, up-to-date information when it comes to Black homeownership. Our report that we produce each year outlines the number of African Americans that have applied for mortgage, the number that have successfully went into homeownership. We look at those who applied and did not receive a mortgage, and we look at and we analyze the reasons why. And that's how we come up with the solutions that our community needs to help us increase Black homeownership. I do want to note that the reports, all 10 reports that NAREB has produced, are located on our website at nareb.com, nareb.com, under State of Housing in Black America. If you're a data junkie like I am, you have the ability to go online and be able to have access to several SHIBA reports to be able to see the progress in the numbers over the years. Next slide, please. So here is a QR code again to the State of Housing. I encourage everyone to download it or go online to be able to actually see it. A couple things that I want to highlight from this year's report before we get into the discussion. So two major things came out of the 2023 report. Number one, lack of housing stock. We are all experiencing this in the real estate industry, that there's just not enough homes in the price range that they need to be in the condition that they need to be in the communities that our consumers need them to be. This is not just an issue for the Black community. I think it's an overall issue with the lack of housing stock that is available, but it is exacerbated in the Black community. With that, we are very focused on strategies to increase housing supply, and we'll talk about some of those today. Another area that we experienced is a lack of consumer confidence. And this really is more of the signs of the time. Inflation's high. Housing prices have skyrocketed. In addition to that, interest rates are higher than they have been in most recent years. So all of these factors affect Black consumer confidence. One of the things that our report has showed us over the years, and this has been a stat for probably the past 7 years, is that there are more than 2 million mortgage-ready Black American borrowers out there. More than 2 million Black mortgage-ready Black consumers. What does mortgage-ready mean? That means that they have the credit and they have the income to be able to buy real estate. So we know that they're out there, but they don't have the consumer confidence or the education or the knowledge that they need to take that next step to become a homeowner. And that's where the role of NAREB is so critical. We also looked at the denial rates for Black applicants that did apply. For conventional loans, Black applicants were more than 3 times more likely to be denied for a loan versus white applicants. That's what our data shows. We also looked at the disproportionate amount of high cost loans that Black consumers get at 14% compared to 6% for other races. So we know that when we apply for a loan, we're 3 times more likely not to get approved, and we'll talk about some of those reasons why. We also know that we get a disproportionate share of subprimes and high cost loans, which again make you more susceptible to foreclosure and also make you have to pay more for the same thing. We also track specifically with the State of Housing in Black America report millennial spending. So we looked over 21 and 22. Black millennial mortgage applications and originations fell by 23 and 27% respectively. With that, we know that there is a big push that we need to have in our communities to be able to reach Black millennials, to inspire them to purchase real estate, because our data shows that they are not even applying at the same rate that they were in previous years. Another stat that came out of our State of Housing report, that's something that NAREB is starting to track. This is the second year in a row that this data pulled up for us, is the effects of climate change and what it has, those effects that it has specifically on the Black community in our existing homeowners. And we have a question about that later that we will expand upon that. So this is what the data shows. And it's so important to be able to have access to this data. And NAREB, again, is very grateful to have 10 years worth of this data. But with that, our goal is to utilize the data to come up with effective solutions to help us increase Black homeownership and overcome the barriers that we see. I do want to highlight, before we get into the discussion, some recent advocacy successes. FHFA, who manages Freddie and Fannie, announced the elimination of upfront guarantee fees for mortgage loans made specifically first-time buyers, low-income borrowers, and underserved communities. This is big. The lower the cost of the loan, the more opportunities it creates for minority homeownership. So we're extremely excited about that. In addition, FHFA announced new guidelines for the credit scoring models accepted by Fannie and Freddie when securitizing loans. For example, Vantage Score and FICO 10T will be introduced. This is something that NAREB has been advocating for several years, and we're so excited under the current administration that these were recent advocacy successes that we can see, and we're very hopeful about how it will help us increase Black homeownership. So I look forward, Kathleen, to the detailed discussion that we will have about the state of housing in Black America, but wanted to provide an overview of the report. I will say that that is very difficult to do in a few minutes. The report is contains so much valuable information. So I really encourage the listeners to go out and take advantage of the data that's available to them through the SHIBA 2023 report, and also being able to see past years of the state of housing also too. Kathleen, I'm going to turn it back over to you. We'll use some of the additional slides throughout the discussion.
Let me unmute myself then, okay? All right, thank you for that. That's a great overview and a great introduction. And as you pointed out, a lot of topics that we can delve into in more detail. I just was going to ask President Abney Spivey if you wanted to maybe just add a little bit of some of the points that Dr. Johnson Rose had mentioned. We're seeing some of those here in the Baltimore area as well. Did you maybe want to go into a little bit about what we're seeing in the Baltimore area and in our market, kind of challenges?
Hi, Kathleen, and first and foremost, thank you for the opportunity of being here today. We're still seeing the impacts in the Baltimore area too. Baltimore City, Baltimore County. Credit and income are still challenges that a lot of the residents are facing there in Baltimore County as well as Baltimore City. The other thing that we have been doing on the local level, it has been implementing and making sure that we are giving and providing the community with an abundance of home ownership workshops, just to prepare them and educate them and provide them with the tools for what they need in terms of getting ready for a loan. A lot of what we see in terms of the buyers that come to the workshops, a lot of them are not even getting the information in terms of the availability of grants. So it's important for us that we search and find and identify the other areas in which we can still be very focal with getting and disseminating the information out to the community.
Thank you, Robin. And I just, side note, I just finished teaching a class, and exactly what you just said, it's very much on point. People are asking about grant programs. People share their experiences. And one woman, when she was, I think she said she was 12 years old, she went out with her mother. Her parents had divorced. Her mother wanted to purchase a property, and the person who showed them a home took them to a community that looked a certain way, which was not acceptable to her mother. And she was told, this is all you can afford. They were not told of other options. The real estate agent did not listen to their desires. She said her mother didn't know about other programs or didn't really know what options were out there. And it took her, she said she remembers it. She said she was 12 years old and remembers sitting in the back of the car and hearing that. And she became, got her real estate license when she was 22, 23.
Wow.
Her goal was, I'm going to buy a house. My mom's going to buy a house. I'm going to help
I
my mom
love
buy
it.
a house. And it took her till she was 23, but they finally did. They purchased a home together. But that was,
Yeah.
she's in her 30s now, and that's still happening. And once
Mm.
you're her, they may not know that there's other options, or hey, maybe this doesn't work. Maybe you're working with the wrong person. Maybe that didn't work out. Here's some things that might assist you. So there still is really a strong need for that in 2024, unfortunately. Colette, did you want to go and give some information from NAR's perspective? There's programs or advocacy initiatives that the National Association of Realtors is working on that you want to share with us?
Yeah, sure. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And yes, I'm happy to talk about what some of the priorities are that the National Association of Realtors is focused on. And I will say something about the courses and the programs. You know, when you think about the Maryland Mortgage Program and some of the other programs out here, really, really crucial that people are aware of them, know about them. And one of the things that the National Association of Realtors is going to be working on this year is a first-time home buyer course. And one of the components will be, state and local and also national programs that are out there, and just raising awareness about these programs, about special purpose credit programs, down payment assistance, and all those things will be incorporated into this first-time homebuyer course. So it's really critical, I think, one of the key ways that we can sort of close the homeownership gap. So Dr. Johnson Rose spoke a little bit about data, and I will share some of that as well. I always like to kind of open with some kind of a quote. It's well past time that we advance policy changes to eliminate artificial barriers, exclusionary zoning, and NIMBYism so that we can make homeownership a reality for everyone. And this quote came from Mike Kinsella. He's the CEO of one of the think tanks in Washington, D.C., Up for Growth. But as Dr. Johnson Rose mentioned, the data really does speak for itself. NAR puts out a snapshot of race and home buying and other research data out there. So I pulled some information from that. But you all know, based on your boots on the ground and what you're experiencing in your transactions and in your day-to-day, how tough it is. The supply is at an all-time low. Housing affordability has reached historic lows. We got rising mortgage interest rates, and home prices are significantly higher. We've got a buyer needing to earn more than $100,000 if they want to purchase the median price home without going beyond their budget. We also know that at $188,200, the net worth of a typical white family is nearly 8 times greater than that of a Black family. The Black homeownership rate remains below 45%, so lower than it was even when the Fair Housing Act was passed in 1968. The gap is it's a 29% gap, which is significant. We also know that in addition to housing affordability, we also have, as Dr. Johnson Rose mentioned, significant challenges with people of color getting mortgages. The denial rate is significantly higher for Black Americans. And 39% of Black homebuyers have experienced or witnessed discrimination in the appraisal of their home. So we've got some significant challenges out there. So what are we doing to close the gap? So we have a host of different sort of ways, approaches that we are utilizing. NAR's ACT initiative is one of them. The ACT initiative stands for Accountability, Culture Change, and Training. We continue to advance fair housing in the industry. We have some great resources out there. Many of you have utilized them, the bias override course, the Fair Haven. So we have a number of resources out there for brokerages and associations so that we can hold ourselves accountable, so that we can embrace a culture of fair housing, provide innovative training opportunities, and raise the awareness about what the issues are. We know that there are housing supply and affordability challenges out there, and we know that they hit people of color and Black Americans more significantly in a lot of instances. So we continue to advocate for things like increase in access to mortgage finance, updated credit scoring models, special purpose credit programs. Also wanted to let everybody know that NAR has been a proud partner with the Black Homeownership Collaborative, which one of their, the main goal is to add 3 million net new Black homeowners by 2030. So we also advocate, speaking to the fair housing component, why do we think that this is going to reduce barriers to homeownership? We know that recent testing investigations show that there's still widespread discrimination in the housing market. So we want to be more proactive in uncovering and investigating violations and having an enforcement system that speaks to the licensing agency so that there is the collaboration there and so that we know what is going on both fronts. We are also taking steps to confront appraisal bias. One of the programs that we've introduced, well, actually, it's going to be launched in 2024. I've been working on it all of 2023. It's a code of ethics training for appraisers. We're in the final stages of getting that training up to concluded so that we can launch it hopefully at the end of 2024, perhaps the middle. We're also advocating for increased diversity in the appraisal profession. The level of diversity, as you all probably know, in the profession is very, very limited. We also support uniform reconsideration of value process for consumers. So if they have concerns about whether or not there was an issue with their appraisal, they know about what the process is for going about it, addressing it. We also support training and guidance from regulators to ensure that appraisers are aware of their fair housing obligations and are held accountable for any violations. When it comes to holding ourselves accountable, we are urging state associations to increase fair housing training, and you all are already aware that if you are a realtor starting in 2025, along with the cycle, the Code of Ethics cycle, all realtors will have to complete 2 hours of fair housing training. One of the things that we found out when we did the research around the country with regard to pre-licensing for housing education and continuing education is that there are quite a few states that do not mandate any kind of fair housing training at all. So again, starting in 2025, realtors will be required to take at least 2 hours of fair housing training. We have also launched a self-testing program for real estate brokerage companies so that they can check their agents' compliance with fair housing and take corrective action. With regard to some legislation, and I'll try to speed up so we can get into some conversation, we support the Housing Fairness Act, which increases funding for the Fair Housing Initiative programs and the Fair Housing Assistance programs. We also support the Fair and Equal Housing Act, which adds sexual orientation and gender identity as a protected class under the Fair Housing Act. We support improved language access, HR 3009, which requires the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to provide language resources for mortgage lenders and servicing companies to better serve borrowers. And the Fair Lending for All Act, which adds sexual orientation, gender identity, and an applicant's location based on zip code to as classes of protected categorizations against discrimination. So how are we attacking housing and supply affordability? We're committed to raising awareness on the state and national level. We're hosting roundtables. We just had our fair housing policy forum in DC, where we had various panels talk about the housing challenges and come up with solutions. We're sponsoring education sessions. We have toolkits available. and other resources that we are pushing forth to our state and local associations. We also want to increase and diversify our external engagement. So that was a little bit more on the internal side, our external engagement. So we're working with consumers and technology folks, collaborating and sponsoring different policies that help to increase supply and make housing more affordable. We also have our grants. We have the Housing Opportunity Grant. We have the Fair Housing Grant. You can get, for the Fair Housing Grant, you can get as much as $7,000. You can bring that, or an association, a state or local association can apply for the grant. They can partner with a local or state organization that is prioritizes fair housing. So those are just some of the ways that we're looking externally. I mentioned the special purpose credit programs. NAR passed policy in 2022 in support of special purpose credit programs. And these programs permit lenders to design programs that expand credit access to disadvantaged home buyers, business owners, women, people of color, veterans, and it's permitted under the Equal Credit Opportunity Act. And again, the SPCs may be authorized by state or local law, and they're offered by nonprofit or profit entities, but absolutely legal under the law, under the Fair Housing Act. We also supported the FHA's decision to reduce the mortgage insurance premium by 30 basis points. We support down payment assistance, and we're also looking in support of, on the commercial real estate front, adaptive reuse bills, which provide grant money to redevelop underutilized commercial properties, including shopping centers. With regard to planning and zoning, we support policies to increase supply and developable residential space. We also support opportunities to grant programs administered by the state and local jurisdiction that increase opportunities for buyers, expanding homeownership and voucher programs. Some of our advocacy wins before I wrap up. We support ADUs. There's recent action by the administration to adopt policies around accessory dwelling units to create additional housing. I know that's some work that Maryland Realtors has been working on as well. We also have been working to eliminate the problematic mortgage fees of consumers. We repeatedly voiced concern regarding hikes to the upfront fees by the Federal Housing Finance Agency. So we testified before the Housing Finance Committee on that point. We have also are in support of funding for the Department of Housing and Urban Development to increase housing choice voucher monies and also expand housing development with the Neighborhood Home Investments Act. So those are just a couple of our advocacy wins. My call to action and our call to action is to continue to build awareness, to report violations, to refuse bad actors, to stay connected, to stay encouraged, and to tap another person to get involved. So with that, I will stop my share and turn it back over to you, Kathleen.
All right, great. Thanks, Colette. That's interesting, just because there is a lot of there's some overlap and some shared purpose and shared goals between NAREB and the National Association of Realtors as well. Dr. Johnson Rose, I wanted to maybe start with you by asking a question. It's something that you touched on it and Colette had touched on it as well. We're celebrating a lot of anniversaries. I guess the Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964 and the Fair Housing Act was passed in 1968. Equal Credit, I think, was 1974, I believe, and the Fair Housing Amendments Act 1988, disability was added as a protected class. But we're still seeing these discrepancies in the Black homeownership rate. And I know, even if I remember right, from my reading of the SHIBA report, I think there was a period where the homeownership rate had increased, right? Maybe 2005, right before the Great Recession. So could you maybe provide a little bit of insight on what the rate is now and what kind of issues you see, why there are challenges in increasing that rate?
Yes, thank you so much for that question. Currently, and I'll go to share screen again to be able to show the current rates. But currently, the Black homeownership rate is 45%. You mentioned that there was a period of time where the rate was higher. The highest that we've been is 48 to 49%. That was back in 2004, 2005. So we've hovered for the past few years right around 44 to 45%. And there's a lot of reasons that attribute to that. When you look at barriers to increasing homeownership, that includes lower wealth, lower generational wealth, lower median incomes, unfavorable housing markets, and institutional bias has all kind of created this financial system that has been harder for African American borrowers to maneuver through. When we look at these obstacles, some of them date back to the 20th century with discriminatory public and private housing policies, things like redlining that were rampant, and these policies systematically excluded Blacks from being able to acquire loans and participate in the home buying process. So with that, as that is exasperated over years, you see where the homeownership rates are now. And again, we have a 30-point almost gap to the homeownership rate. What was very interesting this year about the State of Housing report is that we see that unemployment for the African American community is at an all-time low. So it's not working in terms of income and African Americans having income, but it's with the current pricing, inflation, interest rates, and things of that nature. The ability to be able to afford housing in this particular market is one of our biggest challenges. We talked about also, there's 2 million mortgage-ready Black borrowers, but again, the housing stock has to be able to match their ability to be able to actually purchase at this time.
You had mentioned some institutional challenges that still exist.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's I know I teach fair housing class. I know Colette does as well, and we talk about some of the problematic federal government policies, industry practices. There were a lot of issues with systemic racism. Could you maybe go into that a little bit? What impact systemic racism and impact that history is still happening today?
Definitely so. Kathleen, there is a group out of the Seattle area that is focused on Black homeownership. One of the most interesting things that they did was a scenario. And I'll just recap this as quickly as I can. But they looked at a scenario of actual data of two families. And they started back in 1976. So 1976 is a key year because in Seattle, that was the last year that redlining was legal. So with that, they look at the families, a Black family and a white family in 1976. The white family was able to purchase a home in 1976, but the Black family, due to redlining, was not able to purchase. They were delayed about 10 years in their purchase process due to discrimination at that time. And the scenario is really interesting because it shows the full biography kind of the families as they progress forward. So one of the things it shows that the white family was able to do was purchase the home at 1976 at a certain price. And then it showed how that family progressed over the years. When it was time for their children, both families had 2 children, boy and a girl. When it was time for their children to go to college, the white family was able to pull money out of their home because they had 18 years worth of equity to be able to help send their children to college. So their children were able to go to college without any student loan debt, which is very significant. They also kind of chronicled the couple, and like a lot of couples do, once your kids graduate from college and you become an empty nester, what do? You sell that house in the suburbs and you buy something smaller, easier to maintain. But at this time, they had the opportunity to pay off the house. And of course, because of so many years of equity, it had raised in value by 3 times the amount that they had purchased it. So they were able to sell that home, buy their retirement home cash. They were able to pay for their daughter's wedding cash, and they were able to help their son with a 20% down payment to be able to, for their son and his son's wife to be able to purchase their first home. So all of these financial benefits were able to happen because of the home that this family was able to buy in 1976. So wealth was able to be generated for the parents and the children because of that a home. The scenario looked at the same situation, same city, 1976, in the Black family, who, because of redlining, was not able to obtain a mortgage. That family progressed along, and about 10 years later, they were able to purchase a home. But unfortunately, the price that they were able to purchase a home at, due to equity and how prices go up over time, purchased a home for double the price that it would have been in 1976. So they paid more money for the same exact home that they could have bought 10 years later, but due to discrimination, they could not. So now they're 10 years behind in terms of time. It's time for their children to go to college. They have a boy and a girl also. But because they bought the home for twice as much, because they did not have the opportunity to have 10 more years of equity building and paying equity and paying the mortgage principal down, when it was time for their kids to go to college, there was not enough equity in the home to be able to pull out for their children to go to college. So both of their children did go to college, but both of their children were burdened with student loan debt. So now the 2 students graduate from college, but they have student loan debt. UNCF, just as a side note, does a stat that the average Black college graduate graduates with $41,000 worth of student loan debt because of situations like this. So now you fast forward, both of the kids graduate from college. The parents are not yet in a position to buy their retirement home because they're still trying to pay off this first house. The daughter gets married, like most daughters do. The daughter and the new husband go into debt to pay for the wedding. The son gets married, like most sons do. The parents are not in a financial position to help the son with the 20% down. So it shows this scenario of how redlining 25, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, still affects the wealth of these 2 families. So you have 2 children that are college graduates with help with down payment, with no student loan debts. You have 2 African-American children that have graduated from college, but they have student loan debt. They have to, no down payment assistance to help them with their first home. So you just see how, if this is compounded upon millions of Black Americans that experience discrimination over years across the country, you can see how we get to this gap. So it looks very simplified when we look at it on a graph, but when you equate that to actual families and wealth building and what has happened due to systematic racism, it really allows you to see how we arrived here and how we arrived to a 30-point wealth gap. So it's not unemployment. It's not that, the economy and things of that nature now exacerbate the problem. But at the end of the day, the core of it is redlining and other practices like that led us on this trajectory. And it's just very difficult with the current circumstances for us to be able to navigate out of it. But that's just one example of redlining that hopefully makes it personal, because we've all been in these situations where we've seen us be able to use real estate as a tool to help with down payments for our children, to help with college payments. But if you don't have that tool, it's very hard and difficult to build wealth.
Thank you. That's and I think that's something for everybody to keep in mind. It isn't just one isolated thing. These practices really do have ripple effects.
Yes.
I want to kind of circle back to something you had mentioned earlier, not redlining per se. It's commonly referred to as reverse redlining, where, mortgage ready or well-qualified Black applicants don't receive the same loan products or the same loan terms.
Yes.
And that's something that you would think had disappeared or no longer happens, but it still happens. And you had mentioned, I think, that even today, was it Black women? I can't remember the exact number. You had said Black women are 3 times more likely
Yes,
a high cost loan product. Could you maybe
yes,
go into that a little bit, the sort of the reverse redlining piece of it?
yes, definitely so. We do a report that's very fascinating also too. And I'll pull up a QR code for it for those who want to look at this report. And it's a white paper called WIRE, Women Investing in Real Estate. And we look specifically at African American women and their ability to purchase real estate. And we look at the landscape that African American women have to purchase in. Kathleen, in the Black community, the highest number of mortgage applicants come from African American women in our communities. African American women first, African American men second, and then Black couples third. So we are studying African American women in the landscape. And we have produced 2 WIRE reports. Next week, actually, we will produce our 3rd white paper on this particular topic. And here's a QR code if the audience wants to access that. So some of the data that's come out of WIRE has been fascinating. One is that Black women are 3 times more likely to receive a subprime loan. What does that tell us? That tells us that Black women are out there, they are applying, they are trying to obtain home ownership, but they're not educated. In many cases, Black women are first-time home buyers, but they're also first-generation home buyers, meaning no one in their family, their mother, their grandparents, etc., did not own a home. So the education of what's a good mortgage, what's a good interest rate, what are good terms is not available to them. So we see as NAREB an opportunity to do a lot more education to African American women that are mortgage ready. Second thing that was startling to us is that the average age that a Black woman purchases her first home is age 44. But the average age that she enters into the job market is age 24. So what's happening between 24 and 44 with African American women? That's a lack of consumer confidence, lack of education, lack of understanding how real estate works and how time is a tool for you in real estate. So we know that we have to reach Black women and inspire them to buy real estate at an earlier age. That's a big thing for NAREB and our WIRE initiative. We have to get Black women building wealth sooner, as soon as they get into the job market, to be able to take advantage of the opportunities to become a homeowner. Last thing that I'll highlight is that we noticed that the number one reason why Black women do not get approved for a mortgage when they apply is not credit, it's not down payment, it's high debt to income ratio. And this is something that is systematic in the Black community. The Black woman is the matriarch of our families. The Black woman has a lot of responsibility in the African American family. And we have seen through our data that correlates to her credit. So that means that there are situations where the Black woman has the car note for her mother or the car note for her son and her daughter and all of these things. When there's medical challenges and things of that nature, the Black woman holds this responsibility for the family, and we see it correlated again in debt to income ratios. So again, this is a report that NAREB produces on a year-to-year basis. Next week, we will have a brand new one out again, which you can see the new one on the NAREB website. But we're excited to have the opportunity to study the African American woman specifically, and for us to be able to curate programs that help her overcome some of the challenges that she has in the market.
That's great information, and we'll be looking forward to reading that report and
Yes, ma'am.
gleaning what we can from it and sharing that every chance we get. I just wanted to touch briefly another thing I think you had mentioned. I believe Colette maybe touched on it as well. So Colette, feel free to chime in if you wanted as well. There's one sort of a high profile case here in Maryland, appraisal bias.
Yes.
Yeah, did you maybe want to go into that a little bit? What
Yes.
NAREB is engaging in to kind of reduce that, or what reforms you're supporting to eliminate those instances?
Definitely so, and I really appreciated Colette's data on, I think it was 28 to 29% of minority communities have experienced appraisal bias. NAREB is very excited to be in a new partnership that was announced in August with HUD. And we're very excited to work with HUD, specifically their PAVE initiative, PAVE, on appraisal bias. What our role is going to be with the PAVE initiative is to be able to help detect appraisal bias in our communities. And how we're working with HUD is through our housing counseling agencies. And NAREB is working specifically to help train and educate housing counselors on how to detect and help consumers detect appraisal bias. We see appraisal bias as a detriment to Black wealth. It is very hard to calculate how much wealth has been stripped from the African American community due to appraisal bias. So we're very excited about the opportunity to work directly with HUD, directly with the Biden administration and the PAVE initiative to be able to help detect appraisal biases in our communities, and to be able to report those. We know that there's a long road ahead for appraisal bias, but we are very excited about the attention and the focus that this issue is actually getting across the country. So again, through our connection with HUD and the PAVE program, we'll be working over the next couple of years with housing counselors to be able to be in local communities detecting appraisal bias.
And I just, here in Maryland, the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights sent a press release out last week.
Yes.
They're entering into a memorandum of understanding with the appraisal, the regulatory agency for appraisers.
Very
here.
good.
So they're going to be signing some paperwork. And I think one of the things they're focused on is, well, of course, appraisal bias overall. But one of the factors, I think, is also increasing the diversity within the pool of appraisers.
Very important factor to it. Very important.
Perhaps also
And I think
getting there. I'm sorry, go ahead, Colette.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry to interrupt you. And I think too, you and I, Kathleen, had talked about, one of the ways that real estate licensees, real estate professionals can help to eliminate appraisal bias is to arm themselves with knowledge about the appraisal process. And I know you and I talked about an appraisal toolkit, because if agents and brokers can share information and resources and information about the process, what is a reconsideration of value, those kinds of things will really go a long way towards arming consumers, buyers, and sellers with information about what to do if they encounter an issue. So I think it's really important to sort of emphasize that real estate agents and brokers, real estate professionals can do a lot in this regard to educate themselves and then thereby educate consumers.
That's important, Colette. Thank you. Yeah, every little bit helps,
Yes.
approach these issues from a variety of ways. So excellent point. Thanks for bringing that up. I want to just maybe shift our focus a little bit now to talking about the inventory, housing inventory. And Dr. Johnson Rose, there's one, I don't know, initiative or program that I had heard about NAREB, which sounds amazing.
Yes.
Black Developers Academy. Can you talk about that?
We are so excited. Yes. Thank you so much, Kathleen, for mentioning that. We are so excited about launching the NAREB Black Developers Academy. It is a goal for us to do our part in increasing inventory. And with that, we have a very awesome opportunity to empower Black developers for economic equity and community revitalization through our NAREB Black Developers Academy. We will actually kick off our first cohort, Kathleen, next week at our NAREB Midwinter Conference, and we will start with 50 of our members that have applied and been vetted and selected to be a part of our first cohort. We are honored to be partnered with Enterprise Community Partners as our education and curriculum partner, but our program is geared to help our members go back into their communities and revitalize it. We're focused on blighted property. We're focused on vacant lots. We're focused on upgrading the housing supply in our areas. NAREB's very blessed also to have some key partnerships that's part of this academy. We have MOU, a memorandum of understanding with the African American Mayors Association, which is a key piece to us being able to work in cities that are led by African American mayors. We also have a MOU relationship with the National Bar Association, the National Black Lawyers. We know that legal assistance is a big issue to be able to help us obtain and revitalize many of these properties. I'll just mention our goals in closing for this particular program is to increase the pipeline of Black real estate developers, reduce the barriers to homeownership for Black and underrepresented households, and most importantly, to enhance economic equity for Black and underrepresented communities. We are very appreciative of several grants that we have gotten to launch this Black developer program. And again, we will be launching officially next week. Our goal is to start with 50 of our members, but we have a integrated plan that will allow us to scale to 500 members trained through this program by the end of 2025. So we're extremely excited about the program, but most importantly, Kathleen, excited about the revitalization that will happen in communities across the country through NAREB Realtors.
That's really exciting. And honestly, just from me just teaching classes and some of the things we talk about, I know there's a strong demand for that, a big interest in that. So I wish you a lot of success on that. And
thank you.
Looking forward to that expansion. That's a great opportunity for a lot of people. And Enterprise, that's a great organization as well.
Yes.
Partner. So that's exciting, really exciting.
Very much so.
I want to ask you just a couple other things as we're finishing up here. Can you, if anyone who's listening wants to get involved, wants to participate, I think you have, what do you have something going on? A Building Black Wealth Tour? Is that something?
Yes.
You that a little bit?
We're also very excited about the NAREB Building Black Wealth Tour. I will share screen again just to share a little bit about the tour. So we are very blessed with our NAREB chapters across the country and local board presidents like Robin that are participating as part of the tour. And our tour is really focused on us using our influence and going into cities to inspire and educate our community to build wealth through real estate. So we do this Black Wealth Tour. It's really a series of community days, excuse me, across the country. So when you come to one of these days in one of our local markets, there's three major factors. One is the environment. So NAREB does a great job of creating an environment that's comfortable for our community. We host these community days as in our community. So we usually have a community center or church, a landmark in the Black community that we host these at. And we create a real estate expo. So lenders, real estate brokers, real estate agents, inspectors, the full gamut of everything that a consumer needs to have exposure to, we create with this environment. But we also make the environment fun. So we have popcorn machines and activities for the kids, etc. Our second piece that's really important with the Black Wealth Tour is our engagement. Every consumer that comes to the Black Wealth Tour has the opportunity to engage in one-on-one sessions. We have our NID housing counselors, HUD certified counselors that are part of our community days. We have one-on-ones with lawyers through our collaboration with the Black Lawyers Association or real estate professionals. So each consumer has the opportunity to come and engage one-on-one with one of these professionals in a quiet, private environment so they can get the information that they need to become a homeowner. And lastly is our education. We have a series of courses every hour on the hour that we host as part of our community days. These are typically hosted on Saturdays from 10 to 3. And we have a very important date that's coming up that we want to announce. And that is Saturday, April the 13th, 2024. NAREB will host these community days as part of our Black Wealth Tour in 100 cities across the country. 100 cities across the country. With 100 of our local chapters, we will be participating in community days. So our chapters, like our Baltimore chapter, our Houston chapter, our Detroit chapter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, 100 of them will host their community days on April the 13th, 2024. and we're branding it as the NAREB Black Wealth Tour. So our community can go to NAREBBlackWealthTour.com. They can find the Black Wealth Tour location in the nearest city. For the cities that we do not have a tour, an actual physical tour in, we will also host it virtually. So we will be virtual also too on April the 13th. The biggest thing with this initiative that we're so proud of also too is the collaborations that we have that are part of the tour. So we have our 100 NAREB chapters that's part of the tour that will host the community days in 100 cities across the country. We have a national partnership again with the National Bar of Black Lawyers that are part of the tour with us. The African American Mayors Association is part of the tour with us. The National Newspapers Publishers Association is part of the tour with us. The Church of God in Christ is part of the tour with us. Delta Sigma Theta, which is the largest Black female sorority, is part of the tour with us. Alpha Phi Alpha, the largest Black male fraternity, is part of the tour with us. And Phi Beta Sigma, another large Black male fraternity, is part of the tour. So we are so blessed that we have assembled the Black realtors, the Black lawyers, the Black mayors, the Black newspapers, the Black church, the Black Greek community, all focused on the Black community and building wealth in our communities on April the 13th. Our goal is with 100 of our NAREB local chapters and boards, with the 100 cities. We have 100 churches that have been mapped to us through Church of God in Christ, where each city has a church ambassador. The goal is 1,000 families per city. With that, that gives us 100,000 Black families that we want to touch on April 13th through the NAREB Building Black Wealth Tour, with the goal of inspiring them to purchase real estate and become homeowners. So we're super excited about the tour. April 13th is coming up. We are gearing up. Local chapter presidents like Robin are working feverishly to make it happen in their local markets. But we are so excited about the people and the families that we will reach through the NAREB Black Wealth Tour.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. And that's interesting. Because you spoke before a couple of different things, a lot of issues. Sometimes people don't have the education or don't realize that
Yes.
homeownership is even possible. And I know from speaking with Robin as well, I think even in your bio, it pointed out Robin's focus, it's community. It's all about the community, reaching out.
Yes.
There are challenges, there are issues, of course, but this is an opportunity for everyone
Yes.
to get out there, to meet with people, to share your knowledge, and to reach out to people that may not, be your typical audience. They may not know that they could become homeowners, or may not know that they could become a developer, and this is something that I could learn. So the focus on education and the opportunity, and of course the foundation is always the community. So that's terrific. I can't believe it, but we are at the end of our time. I'm going to give everybody have any last
It goes
thoughts?
by fast, doesn't
Oh my
it?
gosh, it does.
Yeah,
I could talk to you for another hour easily.
Yeah, I just wanted to add.
Yeah, Colette.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to add on regarding education and the importance of that, and the belief and sort of changing the mindset that people can actually be homeowners. NAR, it does have the financial literacy initiative where realtors are going into high schools and educating high schoolers about finance and home and saving and down payment and all the things, all the elements that go into are involved in the homeownership journey. So you can learn more about the Ignite Others NAR campaign on NAR's website. I just wanted to say a little bit about that. But yes, this tour is fantastic, and I'm looking forward to seeing you, Dr. Johnson Rose, next week. So
Excellent. I look forward to it too, Colette. Thank you so much.
Well, I would definitely encourage anyone who's on this call today, if you would like to be a vendor to support us, definitely go to the realestatebrokers.baltimore.com and get in contact with me if you would even like to become a member of our local association. I'm excited about Community Today as well. Dr. Courtney Johnson Rose, myself, and the team and the members of our chapter are working very hard to make sure that everything goes well. And we do have some other activities that are scheduled to occur as well, specifically on April the 13th. It'll be a networking event for realtists and realtors. So we highly encourage you to come out to that. It's going to be an R&B Legends event as well as this community day. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And our focus is getting out there, boots on the ground, to educate the community. That's what our purpose is, and we intend to do it. Community Day, please contact me if you have any questions. We are a part of Region 4, Maryland, DC, and Virginia. So thank you again for the opportunity, Kathleen, today.
Thanks,
And
Robin.
thank you, my illustrious president,
My
Dr.
pleasure. Thank
Courtney
you.
Johnson Rose. Thank you so much.
Dr. Courtney Johnson Rose, I'm going to let you finish. I'm going to ask you two things specifically. I know a lot of people who are listening, this is great information and it's exciting and empowering for people. If somebody wanted to become a member and maybe participate in some of your events, I think you have a conference next week and then another
Yes.
conference in, rumor has it, in New Orleans in July.
Yes. So we are sold out for next week. So we have missed the boat on that one, but New Orleans is coming July 31st through August the 3rd. We will be in New Orleans. You can get more information at NAREB.com, NAREB.com. If you want to join NAREB, you join through your local associations. Robin is your contact for the Maryland area. We have several chapters that she can help direct you to based upon your location. And then my last comment that I want to just say is thank you so much to the Maryland Realtors for featuring NAREB. We appreciate this opportunity, and I would just encourage your members to take advantage of the information. Download the SHIBA report, download the Wire. The future of homeownership is Black and brown. That's where the most opportunity is in terms of homeownership. So when you look at the opportunity in terms of income as a real estate professional, the opportunity is really with the Black and brown community. As I mentioned, our report shows consistently that we have over 2 million mortgage-ready Black home buyers. You could be the real estate professional to help them become a home buyer. It takes understanding, it takes educating them, but the potential is definitely there. So thank you again to the Maryland Realtors. We really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you so much. I want to thank everybody. We are out of time. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. This is being recorded. Maryland Realtors, we will share this on our YouTube channel. The SHIBA report, there was a QR code. You can download it from the presentation, which I believe will also be shared, or we can provide a copy of that if anyone needs it. And I'm just going to again thank our panel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. There was so much good information shared today. I'm going to have to watch the recording myself to take notes and see what I missed. No, we really appreciate you not only for being here today, but for all that you do every day to promote democracy and housing. So
thank you so much, Kathleen.
All right. And thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you, Colette. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Everybody have a good day.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson Rose. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Kathleen.
Thanks,
Wonderful
Colette.
panel. Thank you.
Take care.